Hello and welcome to round 12 of the PPG IndyCar World Series from the Burke Lakefront Airport, Cleveland, Ohio. And if you're wondering what the mixture of racing cars and aircraft was doing there, well, it's because this 51 weeks of the year is an airport, but for this 1 week it's an IndyCar race. And the man on pole position is the Brazilian Gil de Ferran. It's his first ever pole.
The team has been doing a great job for me this year, and it's make my learning job that much easier. We lost the pole position in Elkhart by 300ths of a second. Today we got it back by 100ths.
The crowd gathering together to watch this round 12 of the series on one of the most bumpy circuits, as well as one of the fastest road courses used in the IndyCar series. And just look at these pictures. Adrian Fernandez shooting through some of the bumpy sections, but so much smoother. Gil de Ferran on his way to setting pole position. Christian Fittipaldi's car not looking quite so good over the bumps. Well, indeed, that is part of the challenge of the circuit here, with these runways and link roads of the airport making a big challenge. They've actually resurfaced some of it over the weekend to try and improve things. There you can see the points. Jacques Villeneuve leading the points table by 24 points from Bobby Rahal. And Villeneuve looking to try and further extend that today, but watch out for Rahal because he's qualified pretty well here with his putting his car on the fifth row of the grid. So on the front row is Gil de Ferran and Jacques Villeneuve sharing the front row, and Jacques Villeneuve denied the opportunity of making it 4 pole positions in a row in this year's championship by de Ferran. Brian Herter and Teo Fabi make up the second row of the grid, and this for Brian Herter a chance to improve on his very lowly score in the championship. He's 26th at the moment. Andre Ribeiro and Paul Tracy share row 3. Tracy still racing with a broken left foot from that karting accident, and that's not going to be helped on the very bumpy surface here at Cleveland. Scott Pruitt next up with Robbie Gordon. So Scott Pruitt on the Firestone tyres and Robbie Gordon in the Valvoline sponsored Reynard Ford. Raul Boesel and the winner of the previous race, Michael Andretti, line up on row 5. Andretti has won this race just one time previously. Then it's Bobby Rahal, second in the championship now to Jacques Villeneuve. And alongside him, in his second race at Cleveland, Maurizio Gugelmin. Alonso Jr., well, he's way down there in 13th place on the grid, alongside 3 times winner here at Cleveland, Danny Sullivan. Jimmy Vasser is a long way behind his teammate Brian Herter. He'll be looking to make up for that. Then Christian Fittipaldi, Emerson Fittipaldi and Adrian Fernandez sharing row 9 of the grid. Parker Johnson makes his third visit to the IndyCar Series with Honda Power this year, with Stefan Johansson alongside him. And then Eddie Chiva and Eric Bachelard from Belgium. Hiro Matsushita, Alessandro Zampedri, and then Carlos Guerrero and Marco Greco. And on his own, at the back of the grid, it's Eliseo Salazar. So that's the way the grid lines up for this 90-lap race, and they've actually extended it a little bit this year. It's been 85 laps in the past, so it's going to be tighter on fuel than it has been in the past. So we're looking at fuel stops at around laps 30 to lap 60, and there we are just looking at the way it's gone so far this year. And look at Rahal there. He hasn't had any wins so far this season, but he's a strong second place in the championship. Robbie Gordon is third, and he is looking for his third win of the year. He's already taken 2 so far this season. Well, there's a look over Cleveland and over the airport there that makes up this track. It is one of the fastest. It's also one of the best circuits for overtaking on as well. So usually we get a very exciting race, but watch the run down to the first corner. There's nearly always some sort of incident going into the tight right-hander at the end of the start-finish straight. And often watch out also for when they're exiting the pit lane, because the pit lane exit actually comes in even faster than they're coming into that corner. There you can see the positions in the Nations Cup at the moment, with the United States with a fairly clear lead. And there a quick breakdown of today's field, with Reynard heading the list of chassis manufacturers and Ford looking good in the Manufacturers' Championship. Well, this in fact is the first pole position for Mercedes this year, with Gil de Ferran getting his Reynard Mercedes onto the pole, and it's the first time in 6 years that it hasn't been a Penske on pole. They've had success here in recent times, with Emerson Fittipaldi winning it in 92, Paul Tracy won it in 1993 last year. Alonso Jr. took one of his many wins during the 1994 season. So Penske is definitely struggling this time, with Alonso Jr. back in 13th place on the grid and Emerson Fittipaldi back in 17th. A lot of work for them to do, but of course the Penske crew always renowned for its tremendous work. We're about to get this race underway. The Cleveland round of the IndyCar Series. Gil de Ferran and Jacques Villeneuve setting off from the front row of the grid. and heading down into that first corner. Now watch out for incident through this first corner. It always gets very tight. Especially, oh, we've got cars off already in the background, and that looks as though it could be Paul Tracy off the circuit. Well, having to have a look back and see who's gone off there. Teo Fabi moves up into second place. So an excellent start from Teo Fabi. Jacques Villeneuve battling with Fabi for second, but it's Gilles de Ferran who's made the best of his pole position. It looks as though everybody's got through that second corner okay, and in fact, well, Paul Tracy is still running, but he is a long way back. It was him on the grass earlier on, and let's see if we can see exactly what went wrong. Well, it was a big moment between them. It was Andre Ribeiro in the number 31 car that got tangled up with Paul Tracy, and Tracy there being pushed off onto the grass or being involved in that incident, and obviously losing a great deal of time. He's got it back onto the track since then, but Tracy, who qualified in 6th place on the grid alongside Ribeiro, and now pushed way down the order. So disappointment for Canadian Tracy, and he's got a long way to even catch. Oh, and that looks as though it's Scott Pruitt. It is Scott Pruitt out as well. That's disaster for Firestone. The Firestone tyre company producing the tyres for both Scott Pruitt and Andre Ribeiro, and both of those cars in trouble. So a great shame. There's Alonso Jr. trying to move up. He's attacking Bobby Rahal. Rahal quite a long way down the order at the moment. The Raul Boesel a couple of places further behind as we go on board with Paul Tracy to have a look at that incident. That's Andre Ribeiro on the right-hand side now. Let's see if we can see what happens. Turning in to the right, Royal Ribeiro, not knowing that Tracy was there, perhaps just cutting left, and Tracy just making contact between Ribeiro's left rear wheel and Tracy's front wheel as well. So that was the cause of the spin, the cause of the problems for Paul Tracy, and the cause of the problems for Andre Ribeiro. But what it all means is Gilles de Ferran's leading. De Ferran is leading Jacques Villeneuve in second place. He's got through into second ahead of Teo Fabi. And, well, this is fantastic stuff for De Ferran. And, of course, a lot of European fans will be interested in this. De Ferran won the British Formula 3 title in 1992, went on to a couple of years of Formula 3000. It's really in Europe that De Ferran has made his name. And now, maybe look at this, they can keep a little bit of a battle still going on for second place, with Fabi now trying to get past Jacques Villeneuve. So it's Gilles de Ferran, Jacques Villeneuve in second place, then Teo Fabi. There's Fabi. He's qualified well on many occasions this year, back with the Jerry Forsyth team, reacquainted with that team, and Robin Hurd, former Eurosport commentator, very involved in the running of that car in the United States this year. And Fabi once again right up there in the top three, but it's De Ferran still leading from Jacques Villeneuve. These two who battled for the front row at Road America are now battling for the lead here at Cleveland. Looks like it's Brian Herter in 4th place. There's Herter just flashing through the picture. Then it's Michael Andretti and Robbie Gordon. So that's the top 6 at the moment, and it's certainly looking close between the top 3. There's Brian Herter in 4th place. Let's just take another look at that start. You could see De Ferran made a good start in the yellow car up front, heading off into the first corner, but look further back, as Ribeiro and Tracy tangled. They tried to go through side by side. It should have been possible through there. There's plenty of width there, really, and it seems a little unnecessary that they got together, but that's the way it goes. And Paul Tracy now already catching up to some of the back markers in his attempt to move further up on board with Tracy, cutting past a couple of cars, or is it just one? In fact, he just gets past one. He's got Hiro Matsushita just ahead of him now, and it looks as though Scott Pruitt's managed to rejoin in the number 20 car there. So after qualifying in 7th place, another good effort from Pruitt, the driver who completed around 10,000 miles of testing for the Firestone company last year. But it doesn't look as though they're going to have much success here at Cleveland. They had a disappointing time in Toronto last time out as well, more down to mechanical problems on the cars that they supply tyres for. But well, with Andre Ribeiro in that first corner accident, and also Scott Pruitt getting tangled up, major problems for them in this race. So De Ferran, Jacques Villeneuve 2nd, Teo Fabi 3rd, little gap, Brian Herter 4th, Michael Andretti 5th, and look at this, Robbie Gordon's coming under attack from reigning champion Alonso Jr. Now remember, Alonso Jr. started back in 13th position, and he's already battling for 6th. This has been a great start from Alonso. We saw him in the opening lap already making up good ground, and now he's beginning to put twice winner this year, Robbie Gordon, under pressure. Now remember, Alonso Jr. won this race last year, and always you've got to watch out for the Penske's come race day, even if they don't perform well in qualifying, and that's definitely the case here this weekend. Unser, who currently is down in 8th place in the championship. We're just having a little look into the pits with a few problems once again. Further on down the order, it looks as though that could be Marco Greco in trouble somewhat further down the order. But he's managed to get it rejoined, and will join our American commentary team live at Cleveland.
Who has been knocking on the door a number of races this year and is exceptionally good on a road course. There was Ribeiro as he tries to get out, get around this circuit, get back in the pits should that become necessary. I also think we let the impression go that Paul Tracy had fallen off the lead lap. He had not. He in fact was able to get restarted by kicking the clutch in and keeping the engine going, got off and back onto the circuit, and is now carving his way through the field.
You see Jacques Villeneuve in that blue car right there in 2nd place. He is the current championship leader. This is a good moment for him because Ray Hall is back in 9th. He's his closest pursuer in the championship. And Michael Andretti is 5th, did not get a really good start. So this is a very good moment for Jacques Villeneuve. He's not worried, certainly from a championship standpoint, by the yellow car here of Gilles de Ferran, who has only, I think, about 12 championship points. He's way out of it.
Let's go pit side, Jackaroo.
There's Ribeiro. Yeah, I saw him go by.
So we'll keep track on that as well. In the meantime, Paul Tracy, his situation on the suspension. Lynn St. James, it doesn't seem anything's obvious there.
It really doesn't. We had a very quick in-car of him before, and I was looking at that right front, and it just does not appear that there is any damage at all, which is great for him. I mean, it may have just knocked it out of alignment a little bit, but if nothing's broken, so far his lines look clean. You know, it looks good for him.
And Paul Tracy does seem to be able to overpower an ill-handling car.
Remember, though, that at Miami, we watched Michael Andretti drive with a similar thing, and then the part failed 10 or 15 laps after the incident.
7 laps are complete. Gilles de Ferran, the pole sitter, has been the leader right from the green. 1 incident, and that actually before the green. 7 laps complete, 90 laps total.
Eurosport Live.
I was hit from the behind.
Welcome back to IndyCar from Cleveland.
I think people need to have more attention, and CART should, for sure, they must have to do something with them, because if those things keep happening, it's very bad.
Well, that's what's so frustrating about a driver is we watched them push Ribeiro's car by. It was obvious that one of the major problems, they had put a giant hole
Ribeiro being interviewed after the problems involving him and Paul Tracy at the start of the race, and we saw both of them go out. Paul Tracy then rejoining, but Andre Ribeiro obviously not very happy about that incident. But well, difficult one to read really. He was well in front of Tracy when he cut across, but you did feel there was enough room really for both cars to perhaps get through. And anyway, both of them in trouble. Tracy still in the race. We're looking further down the order. Al Unser Jr. And in fact, he's now got some pressure from behind now, because Maurizio Gugelmin, or in fact Christian Fittipaldi by the looks of things, is right behind him. And he's dropped back a little bit. It's still Gilles de Ferran leading, with Jacques Villeneuve in 2nd place. In 3rd position, Teo Fabi, as we go back to the American team.
Causing a problem with the engine department. They haven't identified it just yet. Junior continues to be on the course, but he has slowed substantially, as you indicated.
We see him here being overtaken, or nearly so, by Emerson Fittipaldi, who's come way up several positions back. Al Unser, of course, carries that number 1. You see it on the cars. That's because he's still the current reigning champion, but he isn't going to be long.
How many times we've seen those 2 cars running together like that, 1-2, but basically 1-2 on the racetrack, so it's unusual to see them back in the field.
In fact, it's a Penske battle now for 14th position, if you can believe that. rosy future in the Indy cars and seems to love the ride that he has here.
Many rumors surrounding the Penske team. One of them is that they may exercise their option on Paul Tracy and try to get him back into the team for next year. Another is that Emerson might leave the team, but at this point everything is strictly in the rumor area.
Moving up in the field, the battle for 5th place. Michael Andretti just ahead of Robbie Gordon. As you saw just before that, Al Unser Jr.'s troubles continue. Now, look down here, Lynn St. James, on the right side of the cockpit, lower edge of the frame there. In fact, I think that's just one of those, for want of a better word, a decal holder that's flopped over.
Well, it looks like something's flying the wind, but because of the two bolts in the way that is, somehow I think that is something that's supposed to be holding straight up to help hold his head. So that because we have, a lot of right-hand turns here where his head would be, flopping over there to the right. So I think that's what it should be, and I can't believe, that's aerodynamically got to disrupt some air and not be as effective, but I don't think that's supposed to be laying flat like that.
Well, we're going to open the microphone for Robbie Gordon as he makes the move with Michael Andretti.
Exciting, dramatic pass on Michael Andretti by Robbie Gordon.
Nice. Don't let him in, don't let him in. Now you got him. Keep him nice.
And what is he going to say about this, Derek Walker talking to his driver?
Good. Gather it back up again. That's okay, you'll get him. Just settle down. Doing fine.
Here's what just happened as Robbie Gordon got past Michael Andretti, picked up 5th place, and almost immediately got himself in trouble. Way too hot into that corner, wouldn't you say, Lynn?
Absolutely. It looks like that is going into turn 3 there, and he just carried way too much speed. Didn't really lose it, didn't spin, but was able to continue on through the grass. But that, those cars are really not designed to do that.
Here's another view. Same thing. Was there contact in this situation? Well, we come back to the front of the field as Jack Villeneuve with Teo Fabi continuing to bite at the back end of his car, and they begin to work their way through traffic.
You want to blow this Tracy thing off, Bonnie?
Bobby there in the red and white car that looks so much like the familiar Penske car combination has knocked on the door over and over throughout this season without managing to succeed, without snaring a win. We've had 7 winners to this point in the season in the 12 races, and he is certainly one of the people who might add to that list of 7.
That tremendously wide, 96 feet wide straightaway, which is a runway most of the year. Here's a taxiway, and then on to another runway right alongside the lakefront. In fact, there are all kinds of boats, sailboats, power boats that watch this race from out in the lake, just a few feet off of that back straightaway. Only 2 times in the 13 previous races has the leader of the first lap gone on to win.
So Gilles de Ferran driving superbly at the moment up front in this IndyCar race from Cleveland, and showing the promise that he showed at the beginning of the season, but he's gone through a bit of a rough patch in recent races, and this is a superb performance. But watch this battle for second place, because Jacques Villeneuve, well, in fact we've just switched off that battle, but Jacques Villeneuve was having to protect second place from Teo Fabi fairly comprehensively there. We go on board, however, with second place man in the championship at the moment, Bobby Rahal. Further behind him we can see the gaggle that he's involved in there. Maurizio Gugelmin is just ahead of Rahal, and then Danny Sullivan just in behind him. Sullivan, very, very good record he has here at Cleveland, and well, he's shadowing Rahal pretty closely, but Maurizio Gugelmin at the front of this train of cars at the moment. Jimmy Vasser in behind Danny Sullivan. And this group of cars looking as though something could happen any time. Rahal Boesel right at the back of that little group as well. Teammate to Bobby Rahal, of course. And Boesel, who's had a rather disappointing season really so far. He's only had a best finish of 4th position, which when you consider that he's gone to what should be one of the best teams in IndyCar racing this year, switched from the Dick Simon team at the end of last season amidst some acrimony. And well, the results really haven't come the way for Rahal Boesel, whereas team leader Bobby Rahal has had several second places, a few thirds as well, and out of the action goes Paul Tracy, Remember, Tracy was catching up ground after that incident at the start of the race with Andre Ribeiro, and it looks as though he stalled it as well. Paul Tracy in big trouble, in big trouble, in fact on line virtually there, and well, he's just offline, so he should be okay, but if somebody comes round there side by side with somebody else, then life could get a little too exciting. And it looks as though he's waiting for a push from the marshals, and really that's effectively ended any chance he may have had. I suppose if the yellows had come out, full course yellow had come out, he may still have had a chance in this race, but they don't often come out here at Cleveland. There's plenty of space for cars to go off and to be cleared up at each individual corner, and as you can see, the yellow flag just flying at that corner and not really needed to be held all the way around the circuit. So a bit of a wait there, but leading the race, Gilles de Ferran, and there's so far an excellent drive from the Brazilian. Now then, he's got a long way to go in this race. There's going to be 2 pit stops as ever. The fuel is slightly marginal this time with the increase in race length, and so Gilles de Ferran has a long, long way to go to try and take his first victory in IndyCar racing.
Just a few seconds ago here at the Burke Lakefront Airport, Paul Tracy, who was running 17th after falling all the way to the back of the field and working his way up through the field, was suddenly into a quick spin and off the circuit, and this time he killed the engine. Here it is, Lynn.
Very close following Cheever, but it doesn't look like Cheever really slowed him down. I don't know, unless the Cheever slowed down and he was carrying more momentum and he spun to avoid rear-ending Cheever.
Another view, Sam.
He lost it before that, so.
You can see he kept the foot in the throttle, tried to snap it around. I'm surprised he stalled it. That was bad luck. He was running 17th at the time. This puts paid to any chance he might have. There's Sullivan, almost the same place. I was going to say that Tracy really has no chance now to win the championship.
So Danny Sullivan, now we can take a look from the onboard. Here's Paul Tracy's car. It doesn't look like Cheever was a factor at all. Just let the back end get around.
Audio only report.
Parker Johnstone got an eyeful, didn't he? And he killed it after that. He tried to come forward. Jack Arute.
Well, Paul, we may have determined exactly what happened with Paul Tracy before we get a chance to talk to him. He had just radioed in about a half a lap before that he had developed severe steering problems with the car. Now he has finally gotten a push start back to the pits. They will go to work, the Newman Haas team, to see if they can repair the damage.
Boy, Jack, it doesn't look like it. He's already starting to throw stuff out of the cockpit.
Well, he came in dead stick, and this is it for Paul Tracy.
You know, they talk about his rejoining Penske. One of the great assets that he brings to any team is his testing ability. He's one of the best. You know, in the race, Paul Tracy may make a mistake from time to time, but he's a great tester. Here's
Stefan Johansson. He runs in 14th place. Not in contest anybody to the front. Johansson driving last year at Penske. I think it's interesting that while we talk about the Penske chassis being in trouble this year, and that this was that last year dominant chassis, that in fact Stefan has been able to better this chassis performance from last year every race he's been in.
This team does such a good job, the Tony Bettenhausen team. They just deserve a little luck, which they haven't had. They almost had a podium finish at Portland, got booted from behind by Michael Andretti when they ran out of fuel right on that last lap. Remember that, Paul? That was quite a moment.
Absolutely. You can see, too, from the onboard camera here, they talk, and Lynn, you've raced in the Indy cars on this circuit, how hard it is to identify your apex, your turn-in point, and everything.
Absolutely. Just going there, braking going into turn 3. I mean, all of your brake zones are on the left, but yet you've got to basically look for that right apex.
Let's go down to the pits. Once again, Jack Arute, you have Paul Tracy.
Well, Paul, it was a first lap accident that began the litany of problems. What finally put you out?
Well, I was having a battle. The car was never handling right from then. We bent something on the front, and the Budweiser car wasn't handling well, and then I ended up spinning, and you know, we're 5 laps down, so there's really an exercise of nothing, so we just decided to park it and not waste our time.
Tell us your version of what happened, though, on the start.
Well, everybody was supposed to go through 2 abreast, and Andre didn't give me enough room and came across in front of me, so you know, everybody else got through except there wasn't enough room. Andre wanted to go single file, so that was frustrating to have contact before we even got to the green flag.
Paul?
Paul Tracy's 6th DNF of this season. Back on board now, riding on the nose, Stefan Johansson.
You know, as we ride with Stefan, you see the wide open spaces we've been talking about on this airport circuit. Remember that when road racing was revived in the United States after World War II, it was always on the big airport tracks. For example, March Air Force Base or Sebring.
Yeah, on their
maybe Paul, what do you think? That should come back a little bit. We have all those tight city courses. This is kind of great stuff where you can pass
Bonnie, what lap
it's sure
are we
great
on?
for the crowd. Maybe makes Field, Chicago, my hometown. Let's go back to the front of the field, Gilles de Ferran.
Maybe the old Stapleton airport.
You want to set up what Villeneuve's going to do on his first pit stop?
runs well in the lead right now. He is unchallenged.
No, what he's going to do is going to make an adjustment.
That is not Villeneuve.
You know,
take a look at how wide this thing is.
And by the way, one of the reasons de Ferran is doing so well, I believe, I talked to him the other day, is because of the width of the track. Remember, he's a rookie. This is the first time he's run here. And he said he could experiment here in a way that he couldn't on the more confined tracks, and in particular, the ovals. He wasn't afraid of making a mistake, and he did have a spin in practice, but he didn't hit anything, didn't hurt the car at all.
That's Eliseo Salazar, who lines up just behind him. Now,
I can show you on the wing.
These are all cars that have a lap down, and there is second place Jacques Villeneuve. But he has, in fact, been whittling off. It went from 8 seconds to now in the 7-second bracket, where Jacques Villeneuve has been closing, and perhaps Jack Root has an update.
Well, Paul, that window, as we said, 30 laps. What the team is going to do is add a little bit of front wing to the car. Now, the way they do that is there are some adjustments on the front of the wing, so when they come on the pit stop, be sure to watch, if you're a viewer, to the front of the car and watch one of the crew members twist those nuts. That's what will give them the downward force on the wing and help the handling.
23 laps now. We're about 7 away. Car over to the fence looks like Christian Fittipaldi. And how did he get there? Boy, that's a strange place to end up.
He'd been running 13th at the time, well back.
That's actually the entrance to the pit lane and well beyond the last corner.
There's a huge bump basically in turn 8A coming out, but I still can't imagine that he had to have cleared that. So whether he had a tire blow or something to put him over there. But I think, you know, there is an access area that he can go back and get off.
He might have just driven to that point after a problem.
We didn't see the...
So that gives him an opportunity to get him off of the course and also flies the yellow flag in that area only. Gilles de Ferran still leads. We'll be back after these messages and a word from our ABC stations.
Eurosport Live.
Welcome back to Cleveland. This is the battle for second place, with Jacques Villeneuve still trying to hold off Teo Fabi. They've just both gone past Carlos Guerrero, and that allowed Teo Fabi to close up even more than he had done in previous laps. Now remember, it's still Gilles de Ferran leading. Look at Teo Fabi dive down the inside of Jacques Villeneuve there, but didn't quite go through. And Fabi now really beginning to challenge for second position. This is all given Gilles de Ferran. You can just see him at the top of the picture, disappearing out of sight. De Ferran with a very healthy lead, with just about a third distance completed. We've already seen Robbie Gordon come in to make the first pit stop, but with De Ferran leading from Villeneuve second and Fabi third, let's rejoin the Americans.
With the Indy cars in Cleveland, great battle for second place, Villeneuve and Fittipaldi. In the meantime, Emerson Fittipaldi has scored his 6th DNF of the year, is out of the race, Gary Gerald.
Emerson, what was the problem? I saw a lot of water coming out of the side pod here.
Well, it started leaking water. The water system started leaking. I was feeling the rear tires. I started getting loose the car. The last 5 laps I had to back off, and now we cannot continue, unfortunately. The car was running strong. I was hoping for a good race today.
This is your 25th anniversary this weekend of getting into a racing career, and I know this season is probably as frustrating as any one you've had. Has that been the case?
I think it's very frustrating, but we have to work hard to come back again, and everybody at Marlboro Team Penske are working really hard, and we're looking for the Marlboro, Michigan, the Marlboro 500 Michigan now next weekend.
Thanks, Emerson. Let's go to Jack Root now in Robbie Gordon's pit.
Well, Gary, mixed reports for Team Walker. First, Christian Fittipaldi, when we went to commercial, was having some problems. The report on the radio, an engine problem. In the meantime, his teammate Robbie Gordon came onto pit road, the first of the front runners to pit on lap 25. It looks like, based upon those calculations, he is going to have a gas and go at the end and make it a 3-stop race. No major chassis changes. Simply take on the fuel and get back into the war.
And Jack, it was costly for Robbie Gordon, though. He fell down to 12th place on that stop. But of course, the consideration is that no one else has stopped. And so he should be able to work his way back to the front once again. Currently running in 4th place, Brian Herta. Driving for Chip Ganassi. This is your 4th place car. Ahead is Teo Fabi.
Remember that
Not ahead on the track, by the way, a bit ahead.
Right. Remember that Herta had the pole position some months now ago at Phoenix, and he has languished since then, has not really run well. Rumors have circulated that the team might drop him. He's fired up this weekend. He comes from Ohio, graduate of Ohio State, and we're glad to see him doing well.
Leader of the race, Jill DeFerrin, comes into the pits, his first stop of the day. That's an indicator of radar speed that was blocking our view there for a moment. Jim Hall's team goes to work on the car. Everything looks routine thus far. No major changes. They seem to be happy with it. Didn't see any hands go for either the front or rear wing. So Jill DeFerrin comes back into the fight, making his stop on lap 29. In the meantime, the officials are showing the black flag to Marco Greco. He was in and out of the pits, and in doing so broke the 80-mile-an-hour pit speed limit, so they'll give him a stop-and-go penalty. Boy, look at that as DeFerrin comes out. That's one of the danger areas of this turn 1. It's also where the return road from the pits joins the racetrack, and you've got to be very careful when you're moving out there.
You really do, because even though sometimes it's a first-gear turn for some of the drivers take it in second. It is the slowest turn on the track. Basically, you're only going 56 miles an hour approximately there, but you come out of the pits, it's really critical.
See DeFerrin hurdle it through those S-bends there. He told me that was the hardest and the last part of the track he really mastered. There's such a big bump in the middle of the S's. You have to throw the car sideways and then catch it on the other side of the bump.
Moving back to look at the battle for second, Villeneuve and Teo Fabi. Teo closes in once again as they pass Bobby Rahal, put him a lap down. There's the view from Rahal's car.
The amazing thing is that Fabi is pushing so hard with a pit stop just ahead. He has tried Villeneuve several times. You see him again running side by side. It really doesn't seem to matter that much. But once you get Teo, there's
seemed to matter to Bobby Rahal.
I don't know what's he doing out there.
He got such a view out there that
he became enthralled with the view.
He got caught up watching that fight, and of course Carlos Guerrero, you saw him come through there as well. Now they close up on Herta. Herta coming up through that field.
This is going to create some interesting strategy, because everybody's pitting on a different cycle, and so it's not like the leader came in and then everybody followed him in. So it's going to be everybody's pitting at a different point, which dictates and shows their hand a little bit, I think, on fuel mileage as well as just their pit stop strategy. I think Herta just came in the pits.
With his stop, DeFerrin fell all the way down to 5th place. That gave the lead to Jacques Villeneuve. Herta was able to move around Fittipaldi, and doing so assumed second, but then he rolled off into the pits, and now it is once again Villeneuve and Teo Fabi in contact, though now battling first and second.
I'd be interested to hear from Jack and Gary on this, but it seems that the pit stop strategy is more abstract. People are not doing things because of what other drivers and teams are doing. They're doing it just to maximize their own situation and really not caring so much what the others are doing.
Sam, that's almost contrary to what all the crew chiefs were telling us before the start of the race. They were saying we'll all pivot off what the leader does. It'll be dictated if we get by that opening when the window is open. They're trying to make it a two-stop race, but a lot of these guys are doing absolutely their own thing. I don't know if that's an indication of fuel mileage or the way the car is handling.
And Gary, the only team that had elected not to do that, not do a monkey see, monkey do, was Team Green and Jacques Villeneuve. They have said that they were going to come in on lap 30. That's indeed what they have done. Team Green is ready. Now remember, we said before they came into the pits, they were going to add some front wing. So we'll wait to see if a crew member will reach over and try and adjust the wing. First job is to change the tires. Take on the fuel. There's the adjustment on the left side, now the right side. It looked as if a full turn, clean off the radiators, take on the fuel, and Villeneuve's away according to plan.
And DeFerrin comes screaming past. Now Teo Fabi did not head into the pits on that lap. He elected to stay out, so he'd be scored as the lap leader at the conclusion of that lap. Here comes Jacques Villeneuve as he joins the fight once again, and de Ferran is back up to speed and running at full tilt after his service. So the top cars have received service thus far. Jacques Villeneuve, Gilles de Ferran, Teo Fabi stayed out for that lap.
Fabi is a real gamer. You get him inside the 10-yard line, so to speak, and you see him here coming into the pit. He will give a terrific performance. Gary's there.
Tony Brunetti and the crew are poised and ready. We're anticipating a half turn on the front wing. Everything else is terrific. Here's the nose of the 33 car right on the mark. Third place at Long Beach, his best finish this year. He's had a pair of fourths. And Sam, like you said, he is a gamer. Now we'll watch for that adjustment. There it is. First on the left, then on the right. Fueling complete. 13.2 seconds. Great stop.
So Teo Fabi, who had the lead for one lap, relinquishes that lead and joins the fight once again. And the order after this series of stops is de Ferran once again in front, followed by now Jacques Villeneuve, but Teo Fabi may have gotten Jack coming out.
Yeah, it looks as if the exchange of second place took place during the pit stops.
Wow.
That is very unusual, because when you look at the Team Green car here, the blue one of Jacques Villeneuve, he is the guy that typically has been picking up spots throughout the year.
They've had spectacular stops all year. So Teo Fabi with a nice piece of driving and perhaps even better work off of his crew. Forsyth team doing a nice job. De Ferran still doing the best job. Leads this race. 33 laps now complete on the Burke Lakefront Airport. Go back, take a look at Michael Andretti, who with his stop has fallen down to 13th place. Interesting stat there on the pit stops between Teo Fabi and Jacques Villeneuve. Both of them in the 14-second bracket. Teo at 14.3 and Jack 14.8. I guess the question that has to come up, was there any violation of pit speed limit on the way out? Or did track position matter?
A half a second is very hard to gain on a racetrack. You lose it in the pits, you just lose it sitting there.
Well, remember that Fabi ran one more lap before he stopped on a light fuel load. That could be the difference, not the time spent stopped in the pit.
So now once again we're able to split the screen for you with Michael Andretti on the bottom and Brian Herta on the top, two cars in contact. A little bit in the corner, but that closure immediately lost because the acceleration off the corner separates the cars once again.
The depth perception is so difficult here if you're even watching like this, or even you're in the race car. You think, oh, I'm gaining on him, because you gate under braking, and then it's just the acceleration here is so wide, and you can really have so much room that you lose all of it.
Now as the other cars have peeled off for their stops, this battle comes forward. Brian Herta is in 5th, Michael Andretti in 6th.
Michael desperately needs this race if he's going to keep up the momentum that he got from his win last week in Toronto. There's
fire on Mauricio Gugelmin's car at the back end. It'll pop out of the turbocharger. Maybe that engine is gone as well.
Gugelmin has had the best finishing record of any car in the series. He's 10 for 11, but not today.
So Gilles de Ferran, the leader here, followed by Teo Fabi, then Jacques Villeneuve with great work by the Forsyth crew. 36 laps are now complete at the Burke Lakefront Airport in Cleveland. Been a run that has been totally dominated so far by the rookie Gilles de Ferran with a great day.
So Mauricio Gugelmin clambering out of his car, and disappointment for the Brazilian. No points for him on this occasion, but his fellow Brazilian, Gil de Ferran, still race leader and still ahead of the battle for second place. But through those pit stops, Théo Fabi now getting ahead of Jacques Villeneuve, and well, Fabi making sure he was right behind Villeneuve before Villeneuve came in. Fabi stayed out for one lap, and that could have been where he gained his advantage, putting in a quick lap before he came into the pits. And now Fabi trying to find a way past Eddie Cheever, just lapping back markers here. The black car there, that's Eddie Cheever, the AJ Foyt run Copenhagen-sponsored car, and there's Jacques Villeneuve a little behind. So you can see that Théo Fabi's car, now that he's got away from Villeneuve, he seems to have the slight advantage in terms of sheer pace here, but he's got to find a way past Cheever, and this is not good from Fabi's point of view. He's getting held up behind Eddie Cheever. It's giving Jacques Villeneuve the opportunity to close up a little bit, and well, Fabi has to be more aggressive to try and get past Cheever. Just look at the way that Villeneuve's managed to catch up, and all that good work that Fabi put in there to try and get away, well, it's all being undone behind Eddie Cheever. Cheever in his own little race trying to go as quickly as possible. He's not going to let Fabi through that easily, but Fabi needs to find a way past as quickly as possible. In fact, Robbie Gordon's not far behind. Watch out for the blue and white Valvoline car. That's not far behind this little group as well. And Gordon currently in 4th place. The Penske of Alonso Jr. also there, but he's further down. Remember, he dropped back earlier on. Now is Fabi finally going to get past Cheever? Dives down the inside. Yes, he does. So Fabi gets past Eddie Cheever. Now Villeneuve has that difficult task ahead of him, and he's got to watch out for Robbie Gordon further back. Back on board with Swede Stefan Johansson in the Vettenhausen car, running a little further down the order. You can see the bumps once again from these onboard shots, just see the way his head's moving around as he goes over those bumps. A lot of work for the driver and a lot of work for the car as well.
They blew a motor as they were warming it up in the pit lane before qualifying, so a disappointing day for him. And now Johansson trying to get that 1994 Penske into some points here at Cleveland. Ferran leads over Fabi.
The IndyCars are in round number 12 of the PPG IndyCar World Series at the Burke Lakefront Airport in Cleveland. 39 laps are complete. It's been led most of the way by rookie Gil de Ferran, who started on the pole. At the start of this race, there was contact even before the green flag with Andre Ribeiro, Paul Tracy, and Scott Pruitt got caught up in that action as well. As a result, Paul Tracy has fallen well behind the field, had some damage to his car, and then fell out. Ribeiro was out of the race on that, and Scott Pruitt has continued on. Here at lap 39 are the way the top positions are in this field. They have, in fact, completed their first pit stops, and Gil de Ferran came out of those pit stops on top, and Théo Fabi, his Forsyth crew, giving him a great stop, was able to get around Jacques Villeneuve and move into second place. Villeneuve is now third. But let's review some of those stops, beginning with Jack Arute.
Well, Paul, there seems to be two different approaches to pit stops here. With the distance of this race at 90 laps, some crews felt they could maybe make it on only 2 stops, but that necessitated pushing the window as far forward as possible. Now, what the teams have done is Jacques Villeneuve and Théo Fabi have determined they have to go in their first stop to lap 30. Both accomplished that. The same, though, cannot be said with Gil de Ferran. De Ferran pitted a little bit earlier, as did some of his counterparts back in 5th and 6th. So some teams are planning on only 2 stops, and then some teams are planning on 3 stops. Let's check in with Gary Gerald for another story on pit road.
Well, Jack, this pit strategy, of course, being played out up and down every team. For the most part, teams are shooting for the 2-stop race. One of the primary concerns always on this very rough, abrasive circuit pertains to gearboxes and suspension pieces. Thus far, in the first 40 laps now of this race, we have not had those types of problems. There have been, however, problems for Team Penske. Emerson Fittipaldi broke a water line. He has been sidelined. There was an electronics problem for Al Unser Jr. He remains on course at this time. The pit work, however, by Théo Fabi's team gained him a position in the pits over Team Green. Fabi now running second ahead of Jacques Villeneuve, but both, of course, chasing Gil de Ferran. Paul?
And 41 laps now complete, 90 laps of scheduled distance. This is a great battle between Brian Herta and Michael Andretti. It is a fight for 6th place. We should also remind you that out of the race thus far, we mentioned Ribeiro and Tracy. Also, both Christian and Emerson Fittipaldi are out, as is Mauricio Gugelmin. All a result of mechanicals. Boy, look at Michael as he gives Brian Herta every everything going into these corners. They've been beating at each other the past couple of laps. To our good fortune, we have onboard cameras on both cars. And while we watch this, you should know that Teo Fabi, running in second place, has taken in the past 4 laps 4 seconds off of Gil de Ferran's lead. In the booth here with me today, Sam Posey, Lynn St. James, Jack Harut, and Gary Gerald in the pits. Let's go to Jack.
Well, Paul, you talked about those 4 seconds that your leader, Gil de Ferran, has lost. They are blaming the Scott Pruitt automobile. It seemed Pruitt got a little sideways directly in front of de Ferran. De Ferran had to back out of the throttle and has been negotiating around the Pruitt area a little more gingerly than he might have. But they have radioed in to de Ferran that he had better pick up the pace or he's going to be feeling the heat from behind in second position.
Marco Greco, quick spin on the course, doesn't look to be in danger. His second problem of the day. Back to the battle, Herta and Michael.
This is Herta in 5th place, looking back at Michael Andretti in 6th. Michael was fastest here on Friday, and then yesterday when they counted in qualifying, he came up short with 10th place. They might have had small problems with the car, but they have not obviously hit the setup for race day because he is languishing well off the kind of pace that he typically runs.
Our apologies to you, too, that here, because these are airport runways, we can't bury the antennas that are used for the computerized scoring. So it's back to the old visual method. And therefore, things like intervals between drivers aren't created by the computer and so much harder to give to you. Robbie Gordon currently runs in 4th place on board with Robbie. There's Villeneuve just to the inside, and Gordon may just have him. Also turn the radio up here on Robbie Gordon's car. He's talking with Derek Walker, his team manager.
It was interesting to hear Derek say, stay on his tail. I mean, it's like he's really coaching him.
Coverage coming from the Honda Helicam here. Looking at that battle for 3rd place. Jacques Villeneuve, the blue and white car, and Robbie Gordon, red, white, and blue, predominantly white. Wide open circuit here. Flags fly back there. It looks like they've got somebody on the edge of the course. Must be the wrecker. Yeah, in fact, it's the safety crew who are trying to get Marco Greco off the course.
For many exciting minutes at the end of qualifying yesterday, it looked as if Villeneuve might stretch his run of pole positions to 4 consecutive pole positions. He lost that battle to de Ferran, and now today his car seems just a little off form.
Derek cautioning Robbie Gordon, be very careful about passing in that yellow zone. You also saw the white flag, which during the run of the race is telling the drivers that there is another vehicle running slower on the course. Most often it is the IndyCar safety vehicle. Jack Harut?
Well, remember at Indianapolis we were able to eavesdrop on Derek Walker. Well, it's very unusual to have Derek Walker or any crew chief be able to talk a driver around a road course. But the nature of this place, for the most part, at least 3/4 of the racetrack can be seen from pit road. So that enables Walker to do a little more coaching. Very similar to what we see on oval tracks for his driver, Robbie Gordon.
Oh, wow, it's Robbie Gordon taking advantage of the positioning of Parker Johnstone. Comes inside him, and now they go side by side.
Straight, you got him, you can do it. Keep it there.
And Robbie overcooks it. They both do.
He's off too. Keep it going, keep it going. Get after him.
So these passes aren't quite as easy as they seem to be. Robbie Gordon with Jack, and they both get into the corner hunt.
There's plenty of room here. This is a personality thing. Robbie pushing Gilles and Jacques having none of it. Boy, that is, I am going to take this corner first and you're not, and they were willing to go off the road to make their point.
One against the other, and boy, Robbie, you know, off-road he likes.
Look at that. Look at him try to intimidate Jacques.
Yeah.
Is this also an issue, though, of where they can't pick up their marks going into a corner?
Well, that's true, but they were still more concerned with each other.
Look at that. Is that incredible? As they continue right on it. And there it is. Robbie Gordon takes him right back.
Great pass, great pass. Let's get after Andretti now and Herder. Come on, let's get up.
Setting new goals. You hear Derek Walker immediately set a new goal.
As if he hadn't done enough there, now go ahead and get Michael. Gilles de Ferran is still the leader as we go through the halfway point here in Cleveland.
Eurosport Live.
Welcome back to IndyCars Live from Cleveland. You're riding on board with Robbie Gordon after that incredible battle with Jacques Villeneuve. It was a battle for third place, but with both of them going off onto the grass, they both dropped places to Brian Herter and to Michael Andretti. So it's still Gilles de Ferran leading here with Teo Fabi in second place, then Brian Herter in third ahead of Michael Andretti, and then it's Robbie Gordon on board with him now with Jacques Villeneuve a little behind. And what an incredible battle it was between the two of them, with them almost banging wheels going into one of the corners, then both of them across the grass. Finally Robbie Gordon making the move stick and managing to go up one place, but with all of that going on, it's dropped them further down the order, and now they've got to go chasing after Herter and Michael Andretti. So Gilles de Ferran still leading this race. We're about half distance completed now. The question will be whether he has to make more pit stops. Remember, he's got Mercedes engine power. Villeneuve and the others with Ford power could make a difference at the end of the race.
With engine problems. Christian, how does airport runways compare to road courses from your perception?
Well, it was very bumpy out there, I think, the whole week, and especially because we go from runways to taxiways, and there's a big change in the tarmac. Apart from that, it's okay. I think it's nice for the public because they can see basically 90-95% of the lap, and that's all I can say about the track.
Well, Gary Gerald, we have no more Fittipaldis, and we've lost another Brazilian.
Well, that Brazilian is Mauricio Gugelmin. We're talking about what it's like to run on an airport here in all this wide open spaces. Did you enjoy this while it lasted?
It's a nice place. I love this track. There is plenty of space to pass people, and the good thing, you can make mistakes and get away with it.
It was a fuel pressure problem that put you out?
Yeah, unfortunately, it was the first failure this year. The team has been doing a great job, and sometimes that's motor racing.
The man known as Big Mo on the sidelines, Paul.
Robbie Gordon now closing on Michael Andretti. The battle for fourth place. Resetting the order for you. Gilles de Ferran leads by 8 seconds over Teo Fabi. Brian Herta is third. And then Michael Andretti, and then this car, Robbie Gordon.
This is going to be a great battle that's shaping up between these two young drivers because they are both very good at braking late into the turns. Michael Andretti, of course, has had problems with his brakes throughout the season. He seems to have better brakes now. The pedal no longer causes the rear wheels to lock up as they did earlier in the year. Now the pedal just gets longer as the race goes on. But we'll see. I'm sure they're going to try each other under braking. It's going to be great.
Parker Johnstone, Honda Power, just ahead of this battle, though not ahead in position. Parker is running down in 13th place.
Robbie Gordon, with whom we ride, of course, is in 5th right now, but he is basically at least the 3rd fastest car on the track. The incidents have kept him back. He needs to get by Michael and move on up to Brian Herta, who's right ahead of Michael in the red car. There's Brian Herta just going off the left of your screen. That's how close it is for 3rd, 4th, and 5th.
So Michael makes his way around Parker Johnstone, and so does Robbie. By the way, a special thanks. You see these full lap rundowns after 51 laps, for example, here. Without computer support here, those all have to be done manually, so everybody back in graphics, thanks a lot. We appreciate it, doing a good job. Gilles de Ferran is out in front, 8.5 seconds. This is the battle on the circuit. Gordon stalking, trying to chase down Michael, while Michael tries to chase down Brian Herta, and now they're all three right together.
A volatile situation. Everybody very ambitious in this group, hot young drivers. Michael really caught, can't seem to get by Herta, and is under attack by Gordon.
Brian Herta currently runs third. His race appears to be going fine, Gary.
Well, boy, that's in sharp contrast to the way this season has gone, of course, for Brian Herta. His best finish at 10th this year, and so many times he's been a victim of early contact. Today, the car's working beautifully. The only problem he's having right now is he's having a hard time hearing his crew radio instructions to him. They, however, here at the pit wall, are hearing him just fine. So it's kind of a one-way conversation to the cockpit of Herta for Chip Ganassi's team.
You got a glimpse of Chip Ganassi there for a second on the scoring board as we come back up front. Gilles de Ferran is still leading. In fact, he's led all but 2 laps of this race. And he runs still 8.5 seconds ahead of second place Teo Fabi. Gilles de Ferran could be on his way to his first IndyCar victory to match up with his first IndyCar pole. 53 laps are complete.
So Gilles de Ferran still leading, but we are beginning to get into the window now for the second pit stop. And Gilles de Ferran, one of the earliest to make his initial stop, and that's really where this race could be won or lost. The question being whether Gilles de Ferran can make it on just 2 stops. Remember, he came in earlier than Jacques Villeneuve and Teo Fabi. They managed to push a little further into the race, and if Gilles de Ferran has to make 3 stops, then obviously that's no way he's going to be able to win the race. The time lost in coming in again and back out is just going to be too much. So that's really going to be the question of this race. So far this year, we've probably seen a slight advantage to the Cosworth engine users, the Ford Cosworth XP engine, in terms of power and fuel performance. The amount of fuel being used in the race, probably the advantage has been to Ford so far this year. But Mercedes, the Ilmor company based in Britain, they'll be hoping for better things in this race and looking for the win.
Who has collected a bonus point for leading the most laps, as no one will be able to beat him here today, and of course a bonus point for getting the pole here. His first pole in an IndyCar race, and a new track record in only his 12th start in the IndyCar series, so good for him. This is in fact the fastest racetrack that they race on in North America, on the road courses at least, with the average speeds up to about 147 miles per hour. So Ferran obviously very at home at high speeds around this Cleveland Burke Lakefront Airport racetrack, and we'll be looking forward to coming back here again next year at this rate as he continues to dominate with a good 9-second lead over Teo Fabi in second place. Gilles de Ferran in the Mercedes Reynard setup with the Goodyear tires. The Firestone battle was pretty much taken out on the first lap as both Scott Pruitt and Andre Ribeiro both went out. So Firestone will have to wait till next week to try and score their first IndyCar win in 24 years. Goodyear have been on the pole and won every race so far this year. Mercedes in a good battle with Ford for the Manufacturers Championship, and of course there's a good constructors battle going on between Reynard, Lola and Penske, although Penske pretty much out of it so far. It's Reynard in first for Gilles de Ferran, the 27-year-old who has come up from the Formula 3000 testing days and running in that series before making his mark here in IndyCar racing. His very first test session with Jim Hall in Texas was held last year during the season. Was supposed to be in secret, but it wasn't done in secret, and because Ferran just blew everybody away in that testing session, and Jim Hall was so excited about it. He has been asked, will they retain him for next year, and Jim Hall said, you betcha. But of course things can change between now and the end of the season. But Gilles de Ferran has been very, very quick all season long in his car. He had a good run going at Long Beach before being taken out by Paul Tracy. He was doing very well at Phoenix before having a spin on the back straight, and has really had some bad luck running his way. A lot of contact too, but he's been very quick everywhere he goes, and is now finally enjoying the laurels of what could be his first victory in the IndyCar series as he now completes lap number 51 and should be coming in for a pit stop very shortly. There you see the field. That's Hiro Matsushita. Right behind him, Danny Sullivan and Bobby Rahal. And then here we have our leader, Gilles de Ferran. Teo Fabi is in second. Brian Herta in third.
So Teo Fabi in second place at the moment behind Gilles de Ferran. Slight problem with American commentary at the moment. And well, it's a great drive from Teo Fabi this as well. He's back in IndyCar racing in fine style. Of course, he's been racing in IndyCars over the last few years. And the funny thing is, in a way, that of course in the last 2 years, 94, 93, he was driving for the team that Gilles de Ferran is driving for this year. Teo Fabi driving for Jim Hall in 1993 and 1994. Never a win when that combination was running. And look at this one, I think he's just ripping off a tear-off visor. And he's got Scott Pruitt just ahead of him, and perhaps he's waving that they should be giving the blue flag to Scott Pruitt to try and get him out of his way as he comes through, lapping some of the slower drivers. But for Teo Fabi then, interesting to see his old team heading him at the moment. But for Gilles de Ferran and Teo Fabi, both looking for their best results of the year so far. And still, remember, back in third place is Brian Herter, and still the battle behind him, fourth position, Michael Andretti and Robbie Gordon, with Jacques Villeneuve back in sixth place after that little bit of an off, the incident with Robbie Gordon in trying to battle for what was third place before they both went off onto the grass. Well, Teo Fabi still fighting to get past Scott Pruitt, and still seems to be some problem in getting past the Firestone tired driver. Fabi with the Ford engine, just like Jacques Villeneuve. So we really are seeing a great battle in terms of the engines here, and the second round of pit stops are definitely getting underway now, as it looks like Danny Sullivan is one of the cars into the pits. Robbie Gordon, meanwhile, is battling with Brian Herter. Robbie Gordon looks as though he's gone through. So Robbie Gordon takes that place from Brian Herter, and that's moved him up into third place now. So Robbie Gordon behind Teo Fabi, Brian Herter in fourth, Michael Andretti in fifth. Let's go back to the American team now,
who trails Fabi by several seconds. He's way up the track. But Gordon is having a terrific day, having overcome, what, 3 incidents, Paul, where he's been off the track?
Yeah, not a great day. So Gilles de Ferran still in front. And we anticipate him to pull to a stop right here any second, Gary.
Here's that familiar yellow color combination, perfectly placed, and this crew goes to work for Jim Hall. His last IndyCar victory, John Andretti was at the wheel. The first time they ran at Surfers Paradise in Australia, the rookie de Ferran has complained not whatsoever. He loves the way the car's handling. 14 seconds flat, and he's gone. That should be his final stop.
Boy, what a story this is going to be. The rookie Gilles de Ferran in his 12th IndyCar race can score a win. Now Teo Fabi. Looking to see if Teo heads for the pits.
Remember that Fabi stayed out longer around the first group of stops and became the leader on the track.
All right, so Teo Fabi stays out. Gilles de Ferran has made his final stop. And the battle continues on the Burke Lakefront Airport. We'll be back after these messages and a word from our ABC stations.
People who insist on the best from their car know they must take care of their engine. The heart of every car. To keep the heart of their car in top condition, they use Valvoline motor oil. With Eurosport.
Eurosport Live.
You're looking at race leader Teo Fabi. He is leading this race after Gilles de Ferran has made his second pit stop now. And Teo Fabi still not coming to the pits. In fact, he's now got to find his way past Raoul Boesel. It looks as though Boesel has braked a little early to let Fabi go through. And Fabi certainly stretching this second tank of fuel somewhat further than Gilles de Ferran, although remember, of course, Fabi was later into the pits on his first fuel stop as well, and this could play to his advantage. The main thing being whether Gilles de Ferran can run flat out towards the checkered flag, or is he going to have to lean the mixture off, run the car so he's not using so much fuel, and that could cost him time in the latter stages, even if he manages to get through to the finish without another stop. And Fabi, on the other hand, may well be able to turn up the wick and go for it completely. Let's go back to the Americans.
Back at the Berkeley Lakefront Airport, Teo Fabi is the leader of the field here, due for a stop any time, but look at this. He's going to stay out yet another lap. They're getting some remarkable economy out of that car, and maybe he can pull just enough ahead so that he can make his stop and rejoin the fight still at the front of the field. Let's go to Jack.
Paul, they had radioed to Teo to come in that time by, but remember the onboard telemetry tells the driver just approximately how much gas or fuel actually remains. Inasmuch as they are going to make what we're calling a gas and go with a stick, a time stop, better to use up as much fuel as possible and take on only the necessary fuel to go the distance. Right now, he'll end up having a net of 4 additional laps over Gilles de Ferran. That could be the difference between finishing second and possibly going to victory lane.
Jack Villeneuve on the pit road for what will be his final stop of the day. Remember, though, too, it's 2.3 miles around this course, and if Teo Fabi had miscalculated, that could have been very expensive. So Villeneuve makes his stop, and Teo got the word this time, and he heads onto the pit road. So Teo Fabi will make his final stop of the day as the leader of the race. Raul Boisel has moved into second with the stop, and we'll see if he assumes the lead.
Now, Paul, the stopwatch is poised. As soon as the hose is connected, the stopwatch will start. The stick is poised. As soon as they have figured out exactly how much fuel they need, one crew member will tap another, and he'll tap the fuel man with a stick. They do it. He's off and away in 11.4 seconds.
Boy, is that great. Oh, you talk about the ballet, the coordination of these crews, and how they anticipate and plan.
And by timing the stop that way, instead of putting a full load aboard, they save at least 3, maybe 4 seconds because the fuel flows in slower later in the game.
I was thinking how valuable that 3 or 4 seconds is. It's just unbelievable.
Fabi's group is running a really hot race.
I'll tell you what, it looks like Teo's gotten it done in and out of the pits with that time stop, and stays the leader. Raul Boisel, who stayed out a little too long, appears to be rolling to a stop on the course. That's Danny Sullivan coming under Teo, but Teo's sitting there with a full load of fuel on the car and has to get it back up to speed. There is now second place, Gilles de Ferran. So great work by the crew keeps Teo Fabi out in front and moved him up a position earlier in the day.
This is the first time we've been watching de Ferran in other than the lead, and it will be interesting to see if he has the speed now to close in on Fabi.
Fabi looks like he was going slow down pit lane. It looked like he was going slow down pit lane. I thought he was going to go into the pits again.
Keeping an eye on Teo Fabi. That's exactly what he did, Jackaroon.
Well, this is definitely an unscheduled stop. Now, he had lit the tires up when he pulled out into the pits, and you could tell when he pulled onto pit road there was something amiss in the engine compartment. Just a lot of disappointment on Teo Fabi because they have killed the motor now. Oftentimes, when you try to light the tires up and get on the throttle after a pit stop, you can create electronic problems that spell doom for the engine.
Well, we thought when he was moving slowly there, at least I thought that it was just the heavy fuel load and he was being cautious. And then I got to thinking, well, he wasn't on fresh tires, so there wasn't any need to be. And almost immediately he had it in. And that gives the lead over to Gilles de Ferran once again. So luck plays into the battle, but nobody ever refuses good luck.
What a break for de Ferran.
And there is Raul Boisel. You can see the nose of that car has been in contact throughout this day. He was up to the front of the field. Let's go to Gary.
Yeah, Paul, it was a case of an engine misfire. He was trying to limp his way to the pits. The crew had been greatly encouraged because they've been on a roll here in the last month with some solid top 10 finishes. He had worked his way to 7th. Then in the pit stop situation, he had actually moved up to 5th. But now, of course, sideline, it's all over. Let's go to Jack.
Well, Gary, it wasn't an engine problem. It's a broken exhaust for Teo Fabi, and he is out of this race at Cleveland.
All right, so Gilles de Ferran has the lead. Now we're no longer relying on the computer scoring here, but Judy Stropus is keeping track of everything for us, with the fair in the leader, then Michael Andretti, Robbie Gordon, Brian Herta, and Jacques Villeneuve. 68 laps are complete.
So what incredibly cruel luck for Matteo Fabi, the Italian, going out of the race in these closing stages, well, the last third of the race, when they seem to have judged it to perfection. They really did a superb job on the amount of fuel used, able to put less fuel in the car, getting back out in front of Gilles de Ferran. But Matteo Fabi, well, in some ways the Mr. Unlucky of motor racing, and once again that bad luck has spelt disaster for him on this occasion, and Fabi out of the race. Tremendous disappointment for him and the team. You could see the disappointment from the mechanics as they, they took the car. Oh, we've got somebody else off now. Who is that off into the tyres? It looks as though it could be Eric Bachelard. Eric Bachelard, the Belgian. I think that's Bachelard who's gone off. Yes, indeed it is. So, disappointment for Bachelard. Hasn't managed to compete in all of the races this year, but the last few he's been competing in regularly. But he's managed to find a barrier here on the wide open spaces at Cleveland, and looks as though the back of the car almost mounting up on top of the tyre wall there. So out of the race, Eric Bachelard. And adding to the list of retirements that we've seen in this race so far, of course, we saw Paul Tracy, Christian and Emerson Fittipaldi out of this race earlier on, and the latest addition to that list getting out of the car.
Indy Light Series, although did not score a win, but now racing here in the Gallus entry, Tecate Quaker State entry, currently running in the 6th position. He had a great run at Elkhart Lake, he had a good run at Toronto as well, and now here a 6th place finish would be a wonderful result for the young Mexican Adrian Fernandez. He is in a battle though at this point with Jimmy Vasser, Danny Sullivan right behind them, and Jacques Villeneuve, who is in the 5th place spot, but Villeneuve has seemed to be slowing for the last 20 laps or so, just turned down his lap times quite a bit. I don't think he has a problem, but or not a major problem, but he's obviously got some kind of problem where he's had to back off quite a bit. There you see Parker Johnston right behind Adrian Fernandez as he comes through that chicane before leading onto the main straightaway in front of the pit lane, and then heading into the tight right-hander turn number 1 here at Cleveland, where we normally have so much trouble. Problem is you start off 5 wide, but it's only 1 wide when you get to the apex. There you see Eric Bachelard making his way back to the pit area, and there you see Christian Fittipaldi's parked car. He's been out for quite some time with a blown engine in the Walker Motorsports entry. Eric Bachelard, of course, did the Indy Lights program, also had some races in the Skip Barber Pro Series when it was a Barber Saab Series, now, of course, Barber Dodge Series. But Eric Bachelard working his way up through and been running a full season and hopes to do, once again, a full season in 1996 for the Peyton Coyne entry here in the IndyCar Series. We have a full course yellow. The pace car driven by Johnny Rutherford is out on the track right now. This will close up our field. Our first yellow of the day. Our average speed at this point had been way up without any yellows, but we have a yellow because of the Bachelard interest. Here you see him going backwards on the replay fairly heavily into that tyre wall, but that tyre wall doing a nice job of stopping him before making any contact with concrete. Gilles de Ferran leading the field behind the pace car, and he will have Michael Andretti in 2nd, Robbie Gordon now in 3rd, Brian Herta in 4th, Jacques Villeneuve in 5th, Adrian Fernandez in 6th, Jimmy Vasser in 7th. Here we ride on board with Robbie Gordon. I said earlier a Lola, of course that's a Reynard this year. Walker Motorsports team changed. Reynard Cosworth on the Goodyear entry. Robbie looking for some good finishes. He's 3rd in the championship at this point. Continuing the rundown, in 8th it is Danny Sullivan. In 9th, Bobby Rahal. In 10th, Stefan Johansson. In 11th, Parker Johnston in the Motorola Honda Power entry. In 12th, Bachelard's teammate Alessandro Zampedri. In 13th, Scott Pruitt worked his way up through the field after that first lap incident. He is a lap down on our leaders though. Al Unser Jr. in 14th. Matteo Fabi is being listed in 15th at this point, but as we know, he is out of the race, so bump up Eliseo Salazar. Raul Bosalva, he has also dropped out, so bump up Carlos Guerrero in the Herdes entry number 22. There you see Robbie Gordon right up behind Michael Andretti. He's going to stay that close until they get a green flag. Al Unser Jr. takes this opportunity to pull in the pits. A long day for him. You can see Robbie's not going to let Michael Andretti get any way away from him. He's going to try and make a move when we go green flag. Robbie letting him know, I'm coming for you. Robbie Gordon and Michael Andretti, actually good pals, but very, very competitive. as far as on the racetrack is concerned. And both famous for late braking maneuvers. Robbie, of course, very famous for getting the car sideways and all over the place, as his background is the off-road racing. He's currently still third in that championship. I keep telling you that every week, but he stays third in that championship. Here you see a great aerial view of downtown Cleveland and the Burke Lakefront Raceway.
So a little problem with the picture there at the moment, but still this IndyCar race is proving to be very exciting indeed. The result of Eric Bachelar's off is a full course yellow, an unusual occurrence here at Cleveland. Normally there's enough space and time to be able to get the cars out of the way, but they've decided to bring the pace car out, as you saw, and now Bachelar's car being pulled away. So hopefully it won't take too much longer before we go green again with this intriguing race. And there, walking back, is Raul Boesel. Well, disappointment once again for Boesel. As I was saying earlier, it's been a tough season for him, and the results just don't seem to be coming his way. Teamed up with Bobby Rahal this year, and with a great opportunity with the top team, Rahal Hogan, really one of the top teams, there's no doubt about that, even if they've had a difficult few years recently with their various experiments, running the Honda engine last year, of course, Rahal Hogan, and then deciding to drop that at the end of last year and go for the more conventional route for this season, with Rahal running the Lola Mercedes and a similar car for Raul Boesel, but it hasn't really proved to be that much more successful for Boesel than the Lola Cosworth that he was running with Dick Simon last year. So more disappointment for him. Gilles de Ferran, though, still leading this race, and what a tremendous result it would be if he can come through to take the win. Of course, this yellow flag period has meant that everybody else has closed right up within striking distance of Gilles de Ferran. There he is, and the young man leading an IndyCar race in its latter stages at the key time for the first time in his career, and it's really building up. But he's a very cool customer, Gilles de Ferran. He's not the sort of excitable, highly emotional type Brazilian that we've sometimes seen in the past. He was actually born in France and lived for a few months in France really as a baby. He was brought up in Brazil, but he is a cool driver, there's no doubt about that. Very technically conscious driver as well, very good at making the car respond exactly to how he wants it, and his capabilities as a test driver much appreciated by the Paul Stewart racing team when he was racing in Formula 3 and in Formula 3000 in Europe, and no doubt that technical knowledge is helping him in terms of getting it right here at Cleveland.
Well, here at the Burke Lakefront Airport under the full course yellow, this is something they've been doing regularly, bringing out this, what is really a jet airplane engine towed behind a truck so that they can blow off some of those scraps of rubber that build up off the line and can cause accidents like Eric Bachelar's. Let's go to the pits and Jack.
Michael Andretti has radioed into his team that he is experiencing a little bit of a loose condition, so this caution is a nice respite for him. But he also has intermittent radio problems. Sometimes he can't hear, sometimes he can. So they're working with that. But most importantly, what the team has done, they feel they have somewhat of a verbal agreement with Scott Pruitt, where at the drop of the green flag, Pruitt will drop out of the way so Andretti can go chasing the leader. Let's check in with Gary Gerald for some more news from pit road.
And in the third place pit of Robbie Gordon, Derek Walker has been earnestly talking to his young driver, admonishing him or wanting him to have patience. He said, don't do anything until I tell you to, because they know that this is almost like a restart to this event. And remember that wild scramble going to turn number one. Michael Andretti, Robbie Gordon in second and third, two of the most aggressive young drivers getting ready for the green. Now also for Gordon, this is a great opportunity to cool his brakes that had been starting to fade under the full course yellow. And what their concerns about getting another splash of fuel, this yellow takes care of that. He's going up to 104, nearly full rich on the fuel indicator in the cockpit. He's going to go hammer down. This should be very exciting, Paul.
Yeah, we got a great view of how the field will line up. Used car for sale over here. Boesel, Bachelor. 9 cars are on the lead lap. 74 laps are complete. 16 to go with Gilles de Ferran out in front. We'll be back after these messages and a word from our ABC stations.
So this race building up to a tremendous climax now. It really is looking superb. You can't leave Eurosport now, because I tell you, the final stages of this IndyCar race could prove to be some of the most exciting racing we've seen this year. This track lends itself to some great racing, as we've already seen so far. The battles between Jacques Villeneuve and Robbie Gordon earlier in the race, of course. We've seen that Gordon is in determined mood today, and he's now got a chance of taking victory here, but so has Michael Andretti. And well, is there a little bit of recipe for disaster with Michael Andretti and Robbie Gordon running in second and third places, and both really in with a shout of winning this race? We've seen so many incidents from Michael Andretti this year, things that he's been involved in. We've seen Robbie Gordon as one of the most aggressive racing drivers out there, and in front of both of them, Gilles de Ferran, much less experienced, but as I was saying earlier, fairly cool, and looking to try and maintain the advantage. He's had a car advantage. He had it in second qualifying when he took pole position. He's had it in the race so far. He's been able to pull away from both Teo Fabi and Jacques Villeneuve in the earlier parts of this race. But the question is now, can he pull away from Michael Andretti and Robbie Gordon as well? They're back in the pack. You can see Jacques Villeneuve, and he's lying down in 5th place. In terms of the championship, of course, it's still pretty good for him, but if Robbie Gordon were to take the win, then of course Villeneuve's lead in the championship would be under threat. Gordon currently 3rd in the series, and if Robbie Gordon were to take the victory and Villeneuve stayed down in 3rd place, well, that could mean a little bit more pressure on Villeneuve as we carry on through the season. So it really is looking very promising indeed as we look forward to these closing stages. Looking there at Alicio Salazar, who qualified at the back of the field but has gradually been working his way up throughout the afternoon. And well, he's still running, which is the important aspect of it all. But well, Alicio Salazar is not the most interesting part of this equation at the moment. There's no doubt about that. It's all about the race victory now, and whether Gilles de Ferran can take the win, or whether it's going to be Robbie Gordon or Michael Andretti. Andretti's won it once before. He won it back in '91. Of course, Robbie Gordon has never won here. His best result so far has been a 6th position, and it's Gilles de Ferran's first ever race at Cleveland. So it's great theatre. It's all set up. It's all raring to go. Let's go back to Paul Page, Sam Posey, and Lynn St. James at Cleveland.
We should be coming back to a green flag just momentarily. In the meantime, Al Unser Jr. out of the run, Gary.
The defending champion of the series continues to have very tough luck. We know you had electronic problems, but that's not what put you out of the race. What was it?
Well, we finally lost the transmission there leaving the pits that last time, and you know, it's just the same. The whole Marlboro Team Penske, all of my guys, I'm just so proud of them, because we keep coming back week after week, and all the problems that we keep having, and they keep coming back with their chins up and ready to go. And so you know, I'm awful thankful of that, and I just want to say hi to Al and Cody and Shannon at home, and I miss you a lot.
Thanks, Junior. We're back green pole.
That was green. I'll tell you what, Robbie Gordon grabbed the lead for a second. The blow dryer struggled to get off the course in time. De Ferran moved to one side. Now here comes Michael up challenging for the lead. De Ferran has the lead at the moment. Michael is right behind him, so we swap back and forth 3 times in 2 corners. On board Michael now. De Ferran just ahead. Now with Robbie Gordon, 3rd place. Derek Walker's going to have to say now. Gilles de Ferran now in the closing laps, 76 laps complete, 90 scheduled. That is a great shot, Lynn.
What's going on here has some real championship implications, because Michael Andretti, of course, is now in a position to win, while look at this.
Well, look at Robbie present on the inside again. They both circle around. Look at that for a series of lines. Scott Pruitt came around there. He's simply trying to get back on the lead lap.
Keep after them. Let's go, let's go.
So Michael de Ferran. And Robbie's reporting he's got a problem.
Okay, bring it in. We'll do it. Which one? Left rear. Okay, let's just do the left rear. Just the left rear.
Look at him struggle with it. That's the left rear tire that's gone down.
Flat. 10-4, I got it. I can see it. Take it easy now.
you know, you can only lean on that equipment so much, and eventually it will break.
I wonder how much contact occurred in there. Here it is.
Not only that, he's running out in the debris out there. In other words, you can take that chance, you can go out there, you can really make a move, but at the same time you're risking a lot, and you'll get a lot of that crap that sort of collects along the track and debris, and it can cut a tire.
So Jackaroo, now Robbie's back in.
Well, Paul, they've taken the wounded tire off. It was just ripped to shreds on the left side, and Robbie Gordon is totally frustrated. You can hear the car missing. That's because he's got the floorboard, he's got the gas pedal down to the floorboard, and the button keeping him from over-revving. That's frustration.
And there's the tire. Cost Robbie Gordon what may have been another win. Let's take a look at the restart again. This is from Michael Andretti. And at this point, Michael opens his eyes.
This is the best racing of the year right here. Fabulous. DeFerrin hanging it out. Michael coming on top. Lucky they didn't touch there.
And it's where the width of this course pays off.
Great stuff. I started to say there are tremendous championship implications for what's happening now that Michael Andretti is leading the race, because he is now gaining ground rapidly on both Rahal, who's had trouble in this race, and Jacques Villeneuve, who is running now back in fourth. Big day for Michael Andretti if he can keep this thing together.
And for the moment, it's a three-car battle. DeFerrin, Herta, Villeneuve. As Michael Andretti, can he make it two in a row? He's trying to pull away. Scott Pruitt's in the fight, but he's 2 laps down.
So Michael Andretti back in front, and well, what an incredible race this has turned out to be, and you have to feel for Gilles de Ferran after that tremendous lead that he'd built up in the earlier part of the race. He'd really done a superb job. He got involved in the battle with Michael Andretti and with Robbie Gordon, but when it all came to it, Robbie Gordon was able to sneak in there, but it was Michael Andretti who came in front, Gordon picking up the puncture, and de Ferran dropping down to second place. Well, Michael Andretti, he took the win in Toronto with a little bit of luck on his side, and it looks as though Lady Luck is shining on Andretti in this latter part of the season, because it certainly wasn't that way at the beginning of the year, but it looks very likely that Michael Andretti could pick up the maximum points here, 20 points. Meanwhile, Jacques Villeneuve, you're watching now in the blue and white car. Now he's chasing after third place man Brian Herta. Herta in for an excellent result here. He's only scored 4 points in the championship so far this year, and he's got a potential 14 if he can hold on to third place. So Brian Herta will be vigorously trying to defend that, but Villeneuve will want to further close up to Michael Andretti. Andretti looking here with the win to be on 111 points. If he carries on taking the 20 points, with Jacques Villeneuve would be on 130 points if he finishes where he is now, although he was alongside Herta there, I'm sure, in the background. We could just see Jacques Villeneuve and Brian Herta virtually side by side. Unfortunately, we've switched to looking at race leader Michael Andretti once again. Now look back, nope, it's still Herta just ahead of Villeneuve, but this is proving to be a very tight battle indeed between these two, both youngsters, and both aiming for that final podium spot. There's Villeneuve looking back from Brian Herta's car. Brian Herta, former economics student who has certainly made a very successful IndyCar debut last year. He made his debut, former Indy Lights champion as well, and this year hoping to have his first completely full season after that accident in Toronto last year put him out of the running. And look at this, it's so close between Brian Herta and Jacques Villeneuve for third place. Villeneuve looking to try and get another 2 points. If he moves into third, it'll be 14 instead of 12 points that he scores here. Now those could be very valuable at the end of the season. Michael Andretti up front, Gilles de Ferran still in second. There's Andretti, the back of his car just disappearing. Scott Pruitt in between him and Gilles de Ferran, but Scott Pruitt is a back marker. He's been lapped. So it's still the yellow car of de Ferran in second place. Brian Herta in the red and black car in third, and Jacques Villeneuve in fourth position.
floating over the Burke Lakefront Airport is one of America's most enduring corporate symbols. The Goodyear blimp, the Spirit of Akron, is providing us with an aerial view of the Burke Lakefront Airport and the Cleveland IndyCar Grand Prix. Some great shots it's provided, some good analysis shots for us here. Right now it is still Michael Andretti that leads the race. Gil de Ferran has dropped to second and is locked in a battle, trying to hold off Brian Herta and Jacques Villeneuve. Also, by way of note, Adrian Fernandez, who started 18th, has moved up to 5th, and Jimmy Vasser is up in 6th right now. Jack Arute?
Well, let's update you on Michael Andretti. We said he has a wing problem, and pieces are beginning to fall off. It looks like maybe part of the wing attenuator on the front came off. That will create some handling problems at high speed. But, you know, Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company has brought a brand new tire here this year to the Cleveland Burke Lakefront Airport. I asked the engineers what they had done differently. They said basically it's the same compound, but we concentrated in this area, the crown area of the tire, to create better grip. And so far, their performance, it looks as if they not only did their homework, but they'll pass the final exam.
Well, Jack, in the season-long struggle between Goodyear and the Firestone Company, who of course is back into racing, Goodyear has managed to win all of the races and now extend their consecutive race win streak to 314. So we've heard a lot about Firestone this year, but Goodyear has really fought them off beautifully.
Whatever Michael's problem is, I can tell you that he is staying with the pack. He's not as a leader. Usually you see Michael pull away. You know, he's able to pull that little bit of edge out, but I think that everybody is staying. The pack is staying with him, and I think it possibly could be has also lost an air brake duct, which means that his brakes wouldn't be as well, and I see that that's where everybody seems to be able to close. If his brakes are not functioning as well, and he has a high-speed problem, it really could be an issue.
He just hasn't had the speed all day. I mean, it's a series of circumstances that have brought him up here into the lead. I don't think we will see him pull away, particularly as long as he's got Scott Pruitt, that car right behind him, to act as a buffer between him and his nearest pursuers. He's driving a really canny race today.
Let's go back and take a look. We'll keep track of this battle, believe me. That restart once again, maybe we can get an idea of where he actually got chopped, though it wasn't obvious before where the contact came. May have come right there.
I think it might have it actually with de Ferran. I think that's who he had the contact with.
Good call.
Jack Arute?
Well, all the way Lynn and Sam have been discussing back and forth what fell off the car. That's exactly what the crew has to do. You know, they try to radio in, the driver tries to relate as to what's happening, but this isn't unknown.
Whoa, look at Herta. Herta comes inside of Villeneuve, and that battle continues. Villeneuve can hold him off as they go to the Lakeside Straight. Wow, great overhead views now on board with Herta. Oh, what a super battle this has been.
You know, on the widest track they run on all year, we have seen the closest wheel-to-wheel competition. Boy, was that a thrill.
Well, as you know, Sam, no matter how wide the track is, there's still one lane on the racetrack that is the line is where you want to be. So it all funnels down very quickly.
Also, I think there's a diminution of the fear factor, don't you? Here, you know you're not going to get badly hurt in most of them.
What Sam's trying to say is that there's grass out there that you can drive off on.
Well, thank you for translating that.
Yeah.
You got diminution of the grass. Look at this. Gil de Ferran moves down to the inside. Gil de Ferran to the inside takes Michael.
There it
now
is.
Herta charges on Villeneuve.
De Ferran is in trouble.
De Ferran gets pushed off, gets tangled with Scott Pruitt. De Ferran's day appears to be over. Michael has the lead solidly now. He had just gotten past Michael, and he is trying to get them to get his car back going. That's Luke de Ferran, his father. He can't believe it.
As de Ferran has run into trouble in other races very late in the game, so has he here again.
This is the fight for second as Herta and Villeneuve go wheel to wheel, 2 corners now. Is this going to end up in trouble?
Sam, forget that line about one line on the racetrack. They're doing this double for sure.
Unbelievable. De Ferran obviously angered by what happened.
You can't go 2 abreast everywhere, though, and that's the turn that also had the marbles, even though we had the dryer out there to try to push them off.
Oh, what a sad moment for Gil de Ferran. The day truly belonged to him. Would have been a great birthday present, 60th birthday for Jim Hall. Now Michael Andretti runs alone with Herta and then Villeneuve closing down. Adrian Fernandez is the next car in the order.
Herta has driven himself one terrific race to emerge in second.
Now taking a look down from the Honda helicopter and its helicam. Again, looking out at the Lakeside straight.
And just as we talk about Herta, Jimmy Vasser on the same team, Ganassi's team, emerges in 4th place. So that team is having a great day, having not figured much in the early running.
I think there's been a lot of outstanding performances today, and I think one of the things that may have occurred that incident. Oh no! And there was one of the outstanding performances that obviously has had a terrible misfortune.
Adrian Fernandez was on his way to a great day, and he stopped by the edge of the course. We don't have a clue as to why he's out there. So let's go and take a look back. This will be Michael's onboard camera in that confrontation with DeFerrin. Now that's Pruitt coming across the front. Pruitt is 2 laps back. Oh, and he traps DeFerrin to the inside.
That's the point I was going to make, was that I think that Pruitt, even though he was able to run with the leaders, he was 2 laps back. DeFerrin really thought he could go for that.
Boy, DeFerrin
and Pruitt.
Yeah.
Pruitt on the right in the red suit.
I suspect the argument there is that Ferrin felt that because Pruitt was 2 laps back, that he should not have vied for that corner.
Yeah.
And now the word is that Michael has begun to slow. So we keep an eye on Brian Herta, who closes behind Michael now. And indeed, he seems to be catching him.
Just a year and a week ago, Brian Herta injured so badly at Toronto. His career seemed to be at least on hold temporarily as his legs recovered. He managed to come back, get this ride. Then he had a good start to the season, a bad middle part of the season. Look at him now.
Here comes Herta as he makes his move on Michael, and he's got him with 2 laps to go.
But no!
Michael comes back as Herta falters.
But look at Villeneuve.
The white flag comes out. Villeneuve comes in on the charge. The white flag is out. 2 miles to go. 1 lap as Villeneuve moves for the lead.
Anything is possible.
Michael, he touches Michael. They both keep going. Oh, what a great run.
The greatest race of the year.
So now Jack Villeneuve has picked up the lead. The crowd is on its feet and cheering.
Unbelievable.
Herta tries to play catch up now.
Just a little dirt to put onto the track.
I think Herta missed a gear. I don't think he's in real mechanical trouble. I think he missed a shift. That's why he dropped suddenly back.
Final set of corners now for these two. Jack Villeneuve has it, but Herta now has the challenge. Can he come up and close on Villeneuve?
This is Villeneuve's canniest race. He's driven great races all year. This is his smartest, most patient, and he will extend his championship.
Quick little straightaway ahead. Jack Villeneuve. And then Brian Herta as Villeneuve screams for the checkered flag. Herta can't catch him. Villeneuve takes the win, taking the lead in the last lap. Brian Herta comes across in second. His teammate Vasser in third. Bobby Rahal in fourth. Jack Villeneuve has scored the victory here on the Burke Lakefront Airport, his 4th of the year and the 5th of his career.
So what an incredible race from Cleveland. One of the most incredible IndyCar races we've ever seen. And the winner of it, the man who's leading the championship, Jacques Villeneuve. Those last few laps were just unbelievable. You've got to feel so sorry for Gilles de Ferran on what Scott Pruitt was doing there. I really don't know why he thought he had to go past Michael Andretti and then get involved in it all. It just seems such a shame. There is Robbie Gordon cruising in with more damage to his car. So, well, he's had a really tough day of it as well, but what incredible entertainment from our point of view to watch. And Jacques Villeneuve, well, the gods really seem to be smiling on him this year. The championship leader comes away from Cleveland after looking as though he was basically outpaced by several cars throughout the afternoon, with the 20 points for the victory and taking that championship lead some way further away from his rivals. Michael Andretti, well, he was fighting for that position right in the closing moments. He was leading the race in the closing moments, and then of course we saw him suddenly slow down. Whatever the problem was for Michael Andretti, we don't know, but well, just an incredible performance. Well, Barry Green there, very, very delighted, no doubt, that they took the win, and it really was handed to them at the end. But Michael Andretti dropping back with those problems at the end, just drama after drama, and one of the most amazing races that we've seen in IndyCar racing, not just this year, but in the last few years. And Jacques Villeneuve brings the number 27 car home. There must be incredible emotion down there in the pit. We've already seen some pretty heavy emotion from Gilles de Ferran and Scott Pruitt after that coming together. such a disappointment for de Ferran after an absolutely superb race here today. And well, he's unable to add to his points. So he's only got 12 points in the championship, de Ferran, and he was so close to getting the 20 for the win. Just look at the delight in the pit lane there. The Barry Green team, a race that they must have thought was not going to go their way this time. But in the end, it's win number 4.
Getting the kiss. And Jack, describe the emotions of that last lap, because boy, everything broke loose.
Oh yeah, that was tough. You know, the car, we had a pretty low downforce, and the tires went down pretty quickly, and this yellow allowed us to cool down the tires and to be strong for the end, and we could fight. And then when Brian went for the hole and took Michael, there was still a yellow flag. They both screwed up and slowed down, and I just went for the hole.
What about the chase for the point standings? This was such a disciplined race for you and Team Green.
Yeah, when I couldn't fight, I thought, okay, let's hope this race finishes soon, because I had a hard time to stay there and get some more points. But when we had the yellow, I knew we could cool down the tires and that I could push hard for the last 10 laps, and I would have a go at it, and it worked out.
Let's check in with Gary Gerald.
Well, I don't know how you put in words the disappointment this young man must be facing right now. Gilles, you lead this race. It looked like you got everybody covered. What happened there with that 5 laps to go?
Well, Pruitt was in between me and Michael and really making it difficult for me to race against Michael. I wanted to have a shot at Michael, and I thought that we could have, as he was slowing down a little bit in the last few laps. And he caught traffic, and him and Pruitt slowed coming into the back straight, and I had a run at both, and I passed Michael, and I was halfway past Pruitt, and he went fighting for the braking area with me like we were fighting for the lead. I don't understand. I'm very disappointed. I had a close encounter with him earlier on in the race, which baffled me as well. I mean,
in your young racing career, have you ever had a disappointment like this one?
No, this for sure beats everything I had in the past. I mean, I think we had a fantastic car. The Pennzoil team did a fantastic job. We had good pit stops. You know, we led the whole day comfortably. I had the problems on the last restart. It was just a shame.
Thank you, Gilles. Paul?
Well, just tremendous disappointment for Gilles de Ferran. And, well, this is what happened to Robbie Gordon by the looks of things. Oh, well, that was the clash between him and Michael Andretti that bent Gordon's right front. So there was contact indeed between the two of them at the end of the race. So after a remarkable race here at the Burke Lakefront Airport, a remarkable racetrack and a remarkable result. Jacques Villeneuve wins from Brian Herter in second, Jimmy Vasser in third. Great day for Chip Ganassi with second and third places. Bobby Rahal fourth, then Danny Sullivan in fifth, and in sixth place, Robbie Gordon. So Gordon still scoring some pretty good points, but Bobby Rahal is second in the championship with that fourth place, but he now is second by 32 points to Jacques Villeneuve. Further on down the list, former race leader Michael Andretti, who looked as though he was going to win it in the end, finishing in seventh place with Stefan Johansson eighth, and Alessandro Zampedri in ninth, Alicio Salazar taking 10th, 11th place to Parker Johnson, and the final point going to a very disappointed Adrian Fernandez, who also went out right at the end. Well, Gilles de Ferran classified as 14th, but he has to be the most disappointed of them all, and that contact with Scott Pruitt, really remarkable, and why Pruitt was fighting for that position going into the corner. They both got past Andretti, who was slowing down, really defies belief. But Pruitt seemed to have his own argument afterwards, and no doubt he will have his own version to the story. Further on down the list, disappointment as well for Teo Fabi. He was another driver who could have won this race, was leading it before he had the disappointment of an exhaust breakage, and of course on a turbocharged engine, an exhaust breakage really spells the end of any chance in the race. Emerson Fittipaldi was an early retirement out of the race. It was a bad day really for the Penske team, and for Paul Tracy as well, Michael Andretti's teammate. Disappointment with that clash with Andre Ribeiro in the first part of the race, and then withdrawing just a few laps later. So Paul Tracy, no improvement on his fourth place in the championship on 78 points. But the story of the day, well, there are so many, but it's Jacques Villeneuve who takes win number 4, and with it another big lead in the championship. Bobby Rahal in second place on 106 points, and Robbie Gordon with his 6th place will be now on 99 points. Michael Andretti, who looked as though he was going to shoot up the order again, well, he will have 97 points, just a couple of points behind Robbie Gordon. So the battle for second, third and fourth in the championship is pretty close. But for Jacques Villeneuve leading it, it's looking ever more comfortable. Still some way to go in the series. And of course here on Eurosport, we'll be showing each and every race live as it happens. And with the potential of Jacques Villeneuve becoming this year's IndyCar champion. Well, just taking another quick look at those results, and just a quick mention once again for Chip Ganassi team, for Brian Herter and for Jimmy Vasser. We've seen some good results from Jimmy Vasser this year, but Brian Herter has generally been incredibly unlucky. He's only had 4 points so far this season, and he's finished in second place here today. And it was a good drive. He deserved that second place, there's no doubt about that. So 16 points for Brian Herter, a great result. Let's go back to some interviews. And there is Herter.
We knew Michael had a problem, and I caught him there. I wasn't sure if the yellow was still up with the fair, and I got by him, and I thought, you know, if the yellow's still up, I better lift off. So I lifted off and let him back by, and unfortunately, Jacques got back by too. It was a great race. We had a great duel, and I just feel terrific. I want to thank all the crew on the Target Scotch team who stuck by me through the tough times, and this one's definitely for those guys.
A lot of celebration in Ohio tonight, Gary Gerald.
Well, Robbie Gordon wanted to be a part of that celebration, but not. Tell us now about this incident there at the end of the race with Michael Andretti and the contact.
Well, we were running. I tried to put a lube on Michael and Jill going down in turn one, and he gave me a flat tire. So then at the end, we were just shaking our fists at each other, and these cars have got heavy steering. We just barely touched tires.
Are you going to have punitive action, do you think, from IndyCar officials?
I don't think so. I mean, I think it was good, clean racing, but, 2 flats from Michael Andretti in one race just doesn't count.
There you have it from Robbie Gordon.
And there another look at the incident right at the end there between Andretti and Robbie Gordon, affecting his right front. In fact, bending the suspension fairly seriously as well, so dropping him down. But still getting 6th place, Robbie Gordon, so still useful points to add in his challenge as we move on through the year. Well, there's still some way to go in the championship. In the next race in the series, a very, very different prospect indeed. They're going to Michigan for the next race in the championship, as we have a quick look at the points standings, in fact, and there you can see that 32-point advantage for Jacques Villeneuve, with Rahal in second, then Gordon and Andretti still pretty close together, just 3 points between them. No add to points for Paul Tracy today, and then Jimmy Vasser and Scott Pruitt now tying on 73 points in 6th position. But as I was saying, the next race on the calendar, the Marlboro 500 from the Michigan International Superspeedway. It's only the 2nd Superspeedway race of the year. That in Indianapolis, the only Superspeedways now in IndyCar racing. And that is going to provide some sort of challenge. Let's take a quick look back at the highlights from today's race. There were so many of them. It was Jacques Villeneuve, but Gilles de Ferran from pole position, who set off at the start of the afternoon's activities. And Gilles de Ferran taking the lead into the first corner. Teo Fabi with them right behind, and Brian Herter on that second row. The first of the incidents was this one between Andre Ribeiro and Paul Tracy. It saw them both go across the grass. Andre Ribeiro out on the spot. Paul Tracy would be out later. Robbie Gordon, in his attempts to close up some ground, was also on the grass. And meanwhile, we saw that second problem for Paul Tracy, and it wasn't long before he called it a day completely. Well, Christian Fittipaldi was another victim as he went out in the early stages of the race. Meanwhile, Teo Fabi put in an excellent pit stop to take second place away from Jacques Villeneuve. Mauricio Gugelmin then went out. No points for him on this occasion. And meanwhile, we were getting into a real old race between Jacques Villeneuve on the left and Robbie Gordon in the Valvoline car. It forced them both off the track and onto the grass and dropped them both behind Andretti and Brian Herter. Well, the battles continued as Robbie Gordon then fought his way back up, getting past Brian Herter and going chasing after the leaders. But up front all this time was Gilles de Ferran. Great pit work from the whole crew, getting Gilles de Ferran out once again. But Teo Fabi had managed to grab the lead before he had to come back into the pits after an exhaust failure. Raul Boesel was another retirement towards the latter stages of the race. And then we had Eric Bachelard going out, which really set things up for the climax. The yellow flags came out full course yellow, and everybody lined up behind the pace car to lead to this restart that saw Robbie Gordon running wide, Gilles de Ferran getting crossed up, but for the moment taking the lead Well, it wasn't to last for very long as Michael Andretti came on the scene as well, and it was Andretti who was able to pick up the pieces from the second challenge into that end hairpin. Well, it looked as though it was going to be Andretti's win. The battle for third going on between Villeneuve and Herta. Adrian Fernandez out of the race after a good performance as well. But suddenly, Gilles de Ferran was out of the race as well after an incident with Scott Pruitt. It looked as though it was going the way of Michael Andretti. But he was slowing down as well, and it became a battle for the lead between Jacques Villeneuve and Brian Herta. Well, Brian Herta getting past Michael Andretti, but coming past both of them, Jacques Villeneuve, and coming through to take the checkered flag and win number 4 of the season. So an absolutely remarkable IndyCar race from Cleveland, and the Burke Airport circuit, well, tomorrow it'll go back to being an airport. The civilian aircraft will be flying in and out, but after all that drama, well, an amazing race today. United States still leading the Nations Cup from Canada and Brazil, and just think how Brazil very nearly managed to close up that gap on the United States today if Gilles de Ferran had managed to stay in front. So, as I say, today's race may be over, but we've got the Michigan race coming up in just a week's time or so. July the 30th, the date for the Michigan International Speedway. And it's one of the fastest, if not the fastest, in fact, circuit in the world, with the highest speeds recorded on any closed circuit in the world being recorded at Michigan. It could see a very different top 12 to the one we've seen here today at Cleveland, and certainly if there's anything like the amount of incident that we've seen today, it should prove to be a very interesting race. It's a race that we would expect the Penske's to go well at, and after the disappointments for Alonso Jr. and Emerson Fittipaldi today, well, they'll be out for a good result at Michigan. It's a track owned by Roger Penske, and so they really will be looking to try and make up for some of the disappointments so far this year. The crowd have seen a great race here at Cleveland, and following on from the British Grand Prix, one of the best races of the year in Grand Prix racing, and one of the best races of several years in Grand Prix racing, IndyCar have come back with one of their best races for a long time as well. We're really in for a feast of motorsport at the moment, with the German Grand Prix coming up as well next weekend, and also Formula 3000 action as well. Just time to quickly let you know that Vincenzo Sospiri won the Formula 3000 race that was held today at Enna. He won it from his Italian rival. Well, in fact, no, it was Riccardo Rosset. Sorry, Riccardo Rosset winning today from Vincenzo Sospiri, with Christian Pescatori third, Marco Campos fourth, Fabrizio De Simoni 5th, and Jerome Policund in 6th place. And we should hope to be bringing you action from the Enna Formula 3000 race won by Riccardo Rosset tomorrow on Speedworld. We'll also be bringing you the Hockenheim Formula 3000 race live on Eurosport next week as well. But that's it for this week for IndyCar racing. As I say, watch out for the Michigan 500 coming up next time around from Ben Edwards for this week after a tremendous IndyCar race. My thanks to Paul Page, Sam Posey and Linson James for their commentary from on site. And until next time, goodbye.